The Houthis' continued attacks against ships in the Red Sea and surrounding waterways also continue to threaten regional peace and security, as well as international navigational freedoms. These continued unjustified actions have already resulted in the tragic deaths of innocent mariners and continue to threaten the lives of member states' citizens and interests of the international community. Every time the Houthis launch an attack, they not only threaten the lives of mariners from many nations, but also risk creating an environmental catastrophe from damage to oil tankers and other ships carrying hazardous materials. The Houthis have made clear they care only about themselves. They are willing to destroy the fishing industry and regional ecosystems that Yemen and other communities in the region rely on for their livelihoods.
So the ghosts of Houthis are badly affecting the mighty Americans. Remember in January this year, the war criminal Antony Blinken, he was warning Houthis of dire consequences during his trip to Israel.
We talked already about the threat that the Houthis are posing. That's a threat not to us, just to us or to Israel. It's a threat to the entire international community because they've been attacking shipping through the Red Sea that's vital to providing, it provides about 15% of global commerce every day. These attacks have had very, very negative effects for countries around the world in terms of forcing ships to route around the Red Sea, take longer routes, more expensive, more time, insurance rates goes up, prices for food, for medicine, for energy, for whatever's being shipped are going up. And more broadly, it's a threat to the principle of freedom of navigation that every country has a stake in. That's why more than 40 countries joined us in condemning the Houthi actions. That's why other countries have joined us in making clear that if this continues, there are going to be consequences.
But within a few weeks, the US realized that Houthis were tough nuts to crack, and they were not like any other corrupt Arab countries who could be tamed with a slight warning. No wonder even Blinken was forced to change his tune as he began to make conciliatory approach towards Houthis.
So on the one hand, no one actually wants a war. On the other hand, you have forces, momentum, that may be leading in that direction, and which we are determined to try to arrest. You have, as you said, Suzanne, 60,000 or so Israelis who've been forced from their homes in northern Israel. Israel has effectively lost sovereignty in the northern quadrant of its country because people don't feel safe to go to their homes. You have many Lebanese in southern Lebanon who've also been chased from their homes. And absent doing something about the insecurity, people won't have the confidence to go back. And that requires two things. It requires, first and foremost, of course, stopping the firing across the border that's endangering people. But it also requires an agreement, reached through diplomacy, to try to deal with some of the elements that are causing this ongoing insecurity, including making sure that forces, for example, are pulled back so that they can't endanger people every single day and that people have the confidence to proceed. Here again, the United States has been deeply engaged in trying to advance this diplomacy, but it also underscores why a ceasefire in Gaza is so critical. Hezbollah, of course, has tied what it's doing to the situation in Gaza and has said that if there's a ceasefire in Gaza, it will stop firing in Israel. Now, it shouldn't be firing to begin with. It's wrong in and of itself, but it's also a reality. So it only underscores why getting that ceasefire could also be critical to further enabling the diplomacy to try to create conditions in which the diplomacy can really resolve this problem, get people back to their homes in Israel, in southern Lebanon, and have something that's more enduring in terms of keeping things calm. By the way, Red Sea, the Houthis, same thing. Iranian-aligned militia groups. So much of this is tied to Gaza. And I think it underscores why it's clearly in the strategic interests of Israel as well to effectively bring this to a close.
So much for the so-called superpower country. Houthis have continued to inflict pain and insult on the US. It destroyed a British ship carrying over 1 million barrels of crude oil, allegedly to Israel. Such is the fear of Houthis in America that Americans have not been able to gain control of that ship from the Red Sea. Houthis then shot down a top quality drone, American drone, capable of flying at the altitude of 15,000 meters. These events have clearly affected the US adversely. How do I know that? You have to listen, you have to watch this video. The video of the latest speech of the US ambassador at the United Nations Security Council. This chap is literally pleading to the member nations of the United Nations Security Council to act against Yemen, to act against Houthis. He is also desperately invoking the environmental impact nonsense to build pressure on Houthis. But I don't think it's going to work.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Special Envoy Grunberg, Acting Under Secretary General Masuya, and Ms. Al-Abahi for your briefings. Over 3 months have passed since Houthi militants rounded up scores of UN staff, all of whom were working to bring life-saving assistance to the Yemeni people at the time of their detention. We reiterate Secretary General Guterres and the UN Special Envoy's demands for the immediate and unconditional release of all detainees, including 11 U.S. diplomatic staff members held since 2021. The Houthis continue to not only mistreat these detainees, but also seek to exploit them through the release of so-called confession videos. This shameless propaganda is appalling and should be universally condemned. Houthi intimidation tactics have also increasingly focused on the remaining Yemeni staff of UN agencies and non-governmental organizations. Humanitarian workers in the Houthi-controlled parts of Yemen are increasingly worried about their safety. There is absolutely no justification for the threatening and intimidation of UN workers and others carrying out their lawful humanitarian work. We believe the time is now for the UN to implement adjustments to its non-life-saving programming and operations in Yemen to ensure the safety and security of all personnel. The Houthis' continued attacks against ships in the Red Sea and surrounding waterways also continue to threaten regional peace and security, as well as international navigational freedoms. These continued unjustified actions have already resulted in the tragic deaths of innocent mariners and continue to threaten the lives of member states' citizens and interests of the international community. Every time the Houthis launch an attack, they not only threaten the lives of mariners from many nations, but also risk creating an environmental catastrophe from damage to oil tankers and other ships carrying hazardous materials. The Houthis have made clear they care only about themselves. They are willing to destroy the fishing industry and regional ecosystems that Yemen and other communities in the region rely on for their livelihoods, just as they have undermined the delivery of vital humanitarian aid to the region. The attack on the Soyunyon, which holds over 1 million barrels of crude oil, is only the latest in a long line of examples. The Houthis struck not only the ship, but they set off secondary explosions and posted the videos online. They further threatened salvage crews, complicating an already challenging operation and risking the lives of more mariners. This is unacceptable. The flouting of this Council's Resolution 2722 cannot go unanswered. It is vital every member of this Council condemn the Houthis' escalations and demand that they allow the Soyunyon to be towed from the area without further delays. And Council members should make clear to the Houthis' backers in Tehran that they hold Iran responsible for arming and enabling the Houthis in contravention of Resolution 2216 to carry out reckless attacks such as this one. Again, it is troubling that some Council members remain silent in the face of such obvious threats to shared global interests. Turning back to the situation inside Yemen, our thoughts remain with the families of those who lost their lives and with those now struggling to rebuild as they cope with unimaginable loss from the recent flooding in Yemen. Amid these latest humanitarian challenges, additional support and technical assistance from the United States and other international partners are crucial. The United States has already supported the efforts of the International Organization of Migration to help people in IDP camps in Marib, and we stand ready to help more to ensure the safe and dignified return of internally displaced persons. Colleagues, this is not the time for political posturing and disunity. It is time for the Council to work together to address the political, security, and humanitarian challenges that plague Yemenis. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you very much for your support for this platform on buymecoffee.com and Patreon. If you think that this platform deserves to be supported, then you too would like to consider being part of this movement. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.